Well, hello, sports fans. This is Larry Eater in Central Point, Oregon. And this is your favorite program on Run Blog Run, Socially the Distance. And Stuart Weir just got off a train, and he is in Oxford, England, the intellectual, beer, and golf capital of the universe. And you said, Stuart, that your trains may have hit an animal. Was that the issue you said today?
Well, my train was late, and they said the line was blocked because the previous train had hit cattle. So
Wow.
I have no update on whether the cattle survived, but it certainly disrupted the trains.
So if there was a special barbecue on the way home or something,
yeah,
you might get a discount on the cattle. Okay,
no, because it was
really?
actually there was no food on the train at all because there were too many people, which seemed a bit illogical. But there we are.
Wow. Yeah, I know my first time to where was it? For the Commonwealth Games, I went from London up to Glasgow in 14. And 2 hours out of Glasgow, a tree fell on the train track, and we got into this tiny little town, 150 taxis to take all of us to wherever our heart desired. And the gentleman who drove me, I understood 3 words in the next 2 hours. I laughed and I smiled most of the time, and I thought I was good. And I said, well, it's kind of like, being in Russia, But so we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. And let's start with our number one topic on the Gateshead Diamond League, the opening of 2021. What was it like?
Well, it was, first of all, it was just great to be at a meet and great to be at a meet with spectators. There were about 2,000 of them, socially distanced. Sadly, they hadn't consulted the weather, and it was windy, it rained, it was cold, and it was fairly miserable. The organizers had told the media to arrive very early so that there'd be time to get you through COVID and security checks. I arrived 2 hours early and the checks took 5 minutes. There was no indoor media room, so we could only sit in the stands with a gale blowing around us. And it was not terribly pleasant. You posted the nice picture of my seat, which was a great seat until it started raining in on me. And I then couldn't use the computer. Some of the athletes were complaining that they were running into a minus 4.2 meter wind.
Wow.
So none of the times meant anything, but there was some great action. But actually, just backing off on that, I was in one of the 2 official media hotels, but I might as well not have been, because there was an athlete zone and there was a rest of the hotel zone, and no one was allowed to pass from one to the other. Like, I had arranged to have a coffee with the coach, and we found that I wasn't allowed into the athlete zone. He wasn't allowed out of the athlete zone.
Wow.
We actually stood outside in front of the hotel for 5 minutes, but he was told off, saying that he was breaking the protocols by talking to somebody from outside the bubble, even though it was outside and socially distanced. So I thought that was a little bit frustrating, but the meet happened. It was well organized. Great credit to the team who put it together. And, some really good performances.
Yeah, no, I thought that the performances were quite impressive. When I saw the women's 100 results, I was taken back a bit, but I shouldn't have. Shikari had weathered the storm of the press conferences rather well, but jet lag and things like that hit you pretty hard. And you add that to the headwind. And Dina's in her strength area right now. And
yeah, I mean, the other thing, I mean, I've written something on this for you, but it's a fascinating situation that Dina has not run a serious race since Doha, apart from last week. And she has trained effectively. I mean, she's done, you might say, 3 sets of winter training.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And so she was asked the question, what's the difference between the 2019 Dina and the 2021 Dina? She said instantly, I'm a lot stronger. So, athletes have coped differently with lockdown, and we will only know that in a few months. Who has used it well? And Dina said that she decided at an early stage she was not going to try to run last year. She was going to work on the perceived weaknesses in her overall physique and technique. And, she has come out really strong. I mean, it's one race on a cold, wet day from somebody who's local against people who've flown across the Atlantic. So let's not read too much into it. But I would have said, if you'd asked me a month ago, did I think Dina could win the 100 meters in Tokyo? I would have said I'm not sure, because I've always felt that Shelley Ann just had something over her.
Yeah.
But, I think she put on a performance that you'd have to say, well, if she can keep doing that. The fact that you're running 11:35 as opposed to 10:70, and of course that is so far been the weakness in Dina's game, is that she's not done a low 10:70, whereas Shelley and Sha'Carri have, Elaine Thompson has. And you could possibly argue that bad conditions calls for strength as much as pure speed. But, it was certainly an interesting race, and it's better to win it than not to win it. But I don't think we can read too much into it, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, my thing was I watched the interviews that Dina and Laura Muir did, and was impressed by their candor, but also by their ability to relax. Now, Dina's been dealing with British media, as has Laura, for a long, long time. And for Americans who haven't been to a British media press conference, they are the most detailed and difficult athletic questions. And there are, if you have even a tertiary involvement with anybody who's had something questionable, it's going to come up. And it could have been 20 years ago. And it's unlike anything that I've ever seen, but it also is for a country that people are mad about athletics. So, well, let's talk about some of the other performances. Jakob Ingebrigtsen. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Jakob was asked at his press conference if he was worried about the conditions. And he looked at the questioner and said, I live in the west coast of Norway. I run in wind and rain every day.
Yeah. Oh no, he's just I watched that special show about the Ingebrigtsen family that's on Norwegian TV, and wow, they have you know why they're tough. Ollie Hoare, the young man from Australia via On Running Club, he's being coached by Dathan Ritzenheim. Wow, he's having a great season, and that was a gutty race. And
I mean, some people were saying that race was effectively the Australian Olympic trials.
Yeah, because with Stuart McSuen in there too. Yeah. And so no, the Australians have was it Ryan was in there too?
Ryan,
it's been a long time since Australia's had three tough milers. I mean, go back to Herb Elliott and Merv Lincoln and that time. So it's going to be very popular in Australia with our Australian friends.
Actually, I mean that was actually Hoare's comment after the race, not "I've done well," but isn't it great to see three Australians in a race like this?
No, that's Ollie's. We did an interview with him, and he's a great guy. Just very relaxed, very thoughtful, and as Dathan, his coach, has said, ability to handle a lot of hard work. And guys already run a 3:33 this season with Justin Knight. So let's see what he can do. What other performances were you impressed with?
It wasn't the toughest field, but Cindy Semper again did the business, beating Sister Tiffany, winning the race. Similarly, Laura Muir was just professional. I mean, I think that you could say that, I don't know who could have done it perhaps, but someone in the field needed to change the dynamic of the race, because basically Laura knew that if she was still with everyone with a lap to go, she would win. And nobody managed to sort of make a move earlier. And so it was just a comfortable win by Laura. I liked what she said at the presser as well. Someone said, you seem to be in such form. Do you expect to win an Olympic medal? And she said, I don't think you can ever expect to win an Olympic medal. I hope I can. I'm doing everything to put myself in the position. But, it's pretty tough. First of all, you have to make the final. And then you have to run a good race in the final. So I just thought she is such a sensible girl and well coached. She made a nice comment about how Andy and her agent have got her the right races and what that contributes.
No, Laura, each time we see her, she's more composed. Really like Andy Young, big fan. Had dinner with him a few years ago, and just obviously like the way that he's found a system that works for Laura and for Gemma and for his other athletes, and he fine tunes it. And so he's doing the good things. And the truth.
What is
good.
Go on.
And Laura is getting better in racing in any conditions. And that's what she really needs to do.
What I was going to say, that I think one of the many things that Andy has done well is that he first started coaching Laura when she was 18 with no thoughts of being a professional. She was studying at the vet, and she just said to Andy, would you just help me to get the best I can out of my potential? And 10 years on, she's 28, she's a qualified vet, she's a mature lady, but Andy has managed to adjust his coaching and his relationship with her, that they're still working well together 10 years on.
Yeah, no, that's impressive. That really is impressive. Talk to me about the men's sprints.
There was the 200, just the 200. I mean, looking at that from a British perspective, I feel at this time of the year, I'm reminded of my good friend Chris Akabusi, who used to say they don't give out any medals in May. But in a way, one might have hoped that Adam Jamili would have been nearer to the front. Bednarczyk won the race. I mean, in a sense, I thought that race was rather overshadowed by the Carey coming Shelly Ann, and Dina. And well, originally it was said that Elaine Thompson was going to be there, but I was doubtful about that because Shelley and Elaine never seem to run against each other unless it's a really big race.
Yeah.
So to me,
go ahead.
I was just going to say I thought perhaps the men's 200 was a bit overshadowed by the women's sprint. Given also that the women's sprint had about 15 runners in it with two prelims and a final.
No, I would have flown over just to see Dean Asher-Smith and Sha'Carri. Adam Jamili, I'm happy that Adam's healthy. I really like him. He's a straight shooter, part of your 4x1 team. He still hasn't done what I think he's capable of, which is about a 1970 in the 200. I think he has real wheels when he's healthy, and if they can keep him healthy, keep him fit, and watch those races, he could steal an Olympic bronze. He's the kind of kid that just, I never discount his other sport experience, and I just like where his brain's at.
In some ways, he's the unluckiest sprinter because in the World Championship and the Rio Olympics, he came fourth by a fraction.
Yeah, no, it was funny. About a week ago, there's a guy I talk to about once a year, especially in Olympic years. But I did something different this time. I had him give me his 5 athletes to watch in 2022. And I'm just going to reveal 2 of them today. One was Kenny Bednarik. The other one was Noah Lyles. And then there's a couple of women Sha'Carris in that group too. I will tell you that I think Dina Asher-Smith can beat anybody. She may, when they look back at her career, what they will see is someone who has been able to have a life outside of athletics, which I think makes her very strong, even stronger. I mean, that's why you look at a Laura Muir with the veterinary school. You look at Dina Asher-Smith with her history background. Her writing is most articulate, and she could make a living doing that. But you look at someone like that, and I think they both have what it takes. So it'll be interesting. I'm just going to do something quick on the Adidas boost. We'll talk about it more next week. I covered it remotely. Yesterday, I did 22 to 25 interviews, just mixed zone with the different athletes. I got to talk to the kids, and it was fun. And thanks to Sandra Nels for putting that all together. The pressers on the day before with Grant Holloway. Grant's just a card all the time. He's really good. But Kenny was very good. Harrison will have pieces up on her. And just wanted to do a quick shout out on a couple of the others. Let's see. Wayne Vanneker and Noah Lyles and Shawnee Miller-Weebo is always good. She ran 22:08. Noah Lyles took second in the 100. Kenny won the 100 hurdles in 12:49 going away. Wade Vanderkirk had a bit of an issue. His hip tightened, and so he just shut it down, which is the thing he's got to do. He's been with Lance now, Rahman, for 2 weeks, and a huge transition from Hans Botha in South Africa to Lance, and both very fine coaches, but different approaches to things. And so what I think that tells them is they've just got to watch Wade very carefully, coming back from the injuries he's had. But I'll tell you, Grant Holloway will have the world record in the 110 hurdles. I have no question, there. I think Noah Lyles is rounding into form. Um, but Isaiah Young looked fantastic in that 100 yesterday, and so did Aaliyah Hales. So I just thought it was some fun stuff. Clayton Murphy won in a 401 mile, and Nikki Hiltz won in a 431 mile. But the whole idea of having the street meet, Adidas needs to be applauded for that. We should have more of them. I think it attracts the kids, but in a pandemic, for them to be able to hold it, they did a pretty good job. The only thing I've heard about the TV coverage of the Adidas Boost was that people seemed to like it. They just wanted the distance races were kind of an afterthought down at the end of the meet, but it's because they were covering all the sprints live. So, what do you expect? Our third topic of today. Go ahead.
Can I just go back to Gateshead for two things quickly?
Sure.
There was a great tweet by Scott Simpson, the pole vault coach. I'll read it to you. On a night like last night, I truly cannot thank the officials of our meet enough. It sucked for everyone, but our sport could not survive without you. You have my deepest gratitude for all you do in terrible conditions. We appreciate you.
He's a classy guy. We've got two more pieces to put up on his piece. We'll do that this week. But I'll find that and we'll get that out there. That's a good one.
And the other thing I need to tell you is that the lady you've been talking about likes to be called Shikari, not Shikari. And in her presser, she corrected the first three people who asked her questions for not getting her name right.
Shikari. Okay, I will make sure I don't screw that up.
It's rather clever because her Twitter handle is It's Kerry.
Yes. Yeah, I thought I was saying it's scary, and so we had to get that there too. Yeah. What did you? Well, we're going to go down to the pressers in a little bit. Point 3, Adam and Dino on taking a knee in Tokyo.
Well, Adam Jamili has said this week that if he were to win a medal in Tokyo, he will acknowledge issues of racism in the world by taking a knee. And this was put to Dina at the presser. And Dina's reaction was something like this: I haven't heard that. Did Adam say that? Go Adam. And Dina said quite openly, I think the IOC have made a mistake. They have misjudged the mood of the nation, the mood of the world, and the mood of athletes. And that athletes should be allowed to say that I am against racism. Yeah. So I think it's very interesting. Let's say Dina wins a gold medal and decides to take a knee. Are they really going to take her gold medal away from her?
No. It's interesting. I would like to take Dina's comments about the IOC not appreciating. The IOC is a pompous organization anyway, with people who think they're important. And the truth is, the Olympic movement is what's important. Yeah. It brings us together.
I mean, I hate to say anything in your country is better than mine, but I thought the U.S. track and field got it right by saying, at the trials, we will allow athletes to make a gesture on social justice, but not carte blanche, not on political stuff and so on. But actually, if it's on a social justice issue, that's okay. And I think they got that right.
Yeah, no, I think the USOC did. I applaud them for being careful about our Olympic trials. I just found out that I will be able to actually be physically present at the Olympic trials. There'll only be about 30 media there. And for a time, I did not believe I would be getting into the Hayward Field. The challenges right now are such that my belief is the following. If the IOC truly cared about the sport, what they would have said was, we're not doing another Olympics, winter or summer, until Paris. We don't want people to die. We will help our federations put on events, but putting on an event for 2,000 athletes is terribly different than putting on an event for 10,000. The Olympic Village will be a petri dish, and we're going to get some very sick people. And it breaks my heart, because one of the reasons why we put up with all this craziness is so that we can go. I mean, you inhale that air, with the exception of this time, at an Olympics, and you believe the world can do anything. And the my East Coast senior writer, Jeff Benjamin, who you will get to meet someday. He's an American history teacher. But Jeff sends me updates from all his news services each day. And one today was about the spokesperson for the LOC in Tokyo saying under no circumstances will the Olympics be canceled, no matter how many Japanese are against it. He just got ripped in all the Japanese newspapers. And you know, it may have been a little too pompous even for the IOC, which is really hard to fathom. But yeah, this comes down to just being with the athletes, you know, and the we're going to have an Olympics without fans, with very few media. There was a note on Inside the Games this week that the 78,000 foreigners that were going to allow in media and support staff, they're probably going to cut that in half. And again, I'm just waiting. You know, I've made my decision, but I'm waiting to be told, Larry, you're waiting till Paris. Okay, you know, I'm looking for the place to cover everything from, and remotely, because we did it for the European indoors, and we had our biggest numbers for European indoors since Gothenburg. You know, so I'm very, very pleased with that.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about. I'm fascinated with your part 4, pressers. Is any question legitimate? Do elaborate, dear friend.
Well, you see, that really is something that came up at the 2 pressers that we had for Gateshead. Because first of all, there was a British writers one with Shikari, and there was then the 2 on the day before the event. And in the one from Shikari, she was asked, are you bothered about your reputation that you've gone to be coached by a drugs cheat, Dennis Mitchell? And she gave an answer to that, saying that she'd had a long conversation with him. He had been open, and she was confident that she would not be put in any compromising situation. But then the questioner kept asking the question again and again in slightly different ways, and to the point that she said, this press conference is about me, it's not about my coach. Have you any questions about me? And again, I was overhearing in the stand before the event started that now the pressers in the event hotel, there was really only World Athletics, Ewan Cromley from Athletics Weekly, and me. And none of the national press had come, so they were all submitting questions, which Jeff Whiteman was selecting questions to put to the athletes. And I heard complaints at the event that some people had asked him to ask Dina what she thought of Shikari being coached by Dennis Mitchell. And Jeff Whiteman decided, for whatever reason, not to ask the question. And I suppose my thinking is, I mean, Shikari was also asked, what do you think of Dina? And she again answered honestly, she's a great athlete, but I don't know her, and I don't really want to talk about her. She was asked what she thought about Shelley, and she said, well, I don't really like talking about other athletes. This interview is about me, not about others. So again, I was just wondering what you thought. Is it legitimate to ask an athlete 3 or 4 times about their coach because you have you're trying to get something out because you're trying to link it to a drug story? Or again, is it legitimate to ask one athlete to talk about other athletes? I'm just curious to see what you thought about that.
You know, that you're taking it from a different approach, and I like that. Let me just elaborate. I think that I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech. In this country, what it means is that I defend people asking questions, protesting for things that I totally abhor, but I think that it needs to be done and to be said. What I find fascinating, but also disconcerting at the same time, there's that it's a bit of a challenge, is when I go to press conferences with British media, but also with some of what I call the media hipsters in the U.S. In Doha, the Alberto Salazar thing broke the night before the 800. Donovan Brazier won the 800 going away. He had been coached by Pete Julian, and obviously there was Nike made it very clear that there were separate groups. Alberto had been under suspicion for a while. I don't believe because you're with a coach who's done stupid things or done things that are questionable, it makes you a cheat. Are they legitimate questions? Yes. 1, 2, 3. But when I sat at, I'm reminded in 2015 of the Mo Farah presser in Birmingham where he didn't even run the race because he dropped out. 37 questions, 35 were about drugs. The 2 non-drug questions were myself and Cathal Dennehy. I asked Mo if I'd seen him run a 3,000, or he was supposed to run a 1,500, he'd run a 3, he'd run a 5. I said, any other mix-up of distances before the world champs in Beijing? Then all of a sudden, Ricky Sims almost cracks up, and Mo looks at me and goes, did you just ask me a track question? And the thing about it is, I thought those were legitimate questions for the most part with Mo. I do believe in my heart that many of the media were trying to knock him down, which seems to be something that happens. It happens in the U.S. with American football. It doesn't happen with track and field. We just eat our young. We complain about everything over here, and it really hurts the sport. Over in the UK, the way Shikari was treated was the way I expected her to be treated. But the thing is, this is one tough young woman. If you look at how she's grown up and the family that supported her, and Dennis Mitchell, and I know Dennis and Justin are, like many of us, people of some complication. I remember having a short conversation with Justin just after he came back, and the question was asked to me, should Justin answer all the questions when people ask him things? And I said, answer the ones that you want, don't answer the ones you don't, just go out and run. And that's essentially what Justin does, because guy can't win, man. I mean, he gets booed with the silver medal. And we know that there's people, while I applaud drug testing, and it's much better than when I was running in the 70s, there are still people out there who cheat. There are people who cheat in every part of our lives. But the way that, yes, any question can be asked. And I'm a little disappointed with Jeff Whiteman. I love Jeff. I think his announcing, I think the way he does questions is good. I know what he was trying to do, but I also am very careful about controlling media access and media questions, especially in a pandemic. He should have probably, and World Athletics should have probably said, hey, you know what? There's 10 of these questions. Let's put three in there, and we got to deal with it. Dina can handle anything. I watched her take guys apart during the medal ceremony using the term cheeky, and she could have used a couple other foul terms, but she did not. And so the athletes will tell you, and I applaud Sha'Carri for answering all the questions. I pray and hope that she does it in the future because she has a lot to say. She has a platform that I think is truly important. But I also ask my British friends, it's one thing when you as an athlete have cheated. It's another thing when, wow, something just came up and I want to share this with you. With the Olympics looming, U.S. advised against travel to Japan due to COVID. That's just hit Reuters a couple minutes ago. So, so how do I do it? Because I'm always so long-winded. One, Jeff, we love you, but when questions come up like this, please support that whole freedom of the press thing. You don't have to give 20 questions, but at least get a few in there, okay? Two, British media, yes, you can ask anything, but you know what? You're representing 85 million track fans in the UK. For gosh sake, use that time to allow us to understand these athletes better. Just by calling their coach a drug cheat, wow, doesn't mean anything to me. When we're at a medal ceremony, the reason why I do questions at medal ceremonies is because the athletes know that I'm going to give them a chance to talk about all the stuff they went through to get there. That's what makes our sport special. And those are amazing moments. And I can always ask them about drugs. I can always ask them about a crooked coach. But you know what? If they've gotten that far, I want to give them their moment. That's a sign of respect. It's not about limiting my journalistic stuff because, I put my stuff on the line when I went after a Kenyan marathoner who had tested positive, and the federation was hiding it. And they took $500,000 away from her. So I know what it's like to be sued. I know what it's like to fight for the ability to ask questions. I think those things are important. But I just felt bad for Sha'Carri in a way. But I tell you, I chuckled at those questions that you posted, Stuart, because she answered every one of them. And how many times have we had that where there's an athlete, and I understand Justin, but sometimes Justin, Justin handles the questions pretty well. But I like it when people answer questions, but I try to give them questions, not that they can answer. I don't mind challenging them, but why ask them 15 ways and you hadn't got the answer the first time? You're not going to get it 15 times. So sorry for being long-winded, but Stuart, let's do our Olympic update right now, my friend. Where do you think things are? Many new revelations after having gone to Gateshead? You think we're going to see a full Diamond League season? You think it's just going to be based on where this crazy pandemic goes?
What I would like to know is to whether the way the British Athletics manage this event is going to be typical or whether they were more strict. I heard from an athlete who was in the other official hotel that it was nothing like as strict as in our hotel.
Yeah.
I still think, as you say, I still think the games could be called off, and I still think the games could go ahead, but with foreign media added to foreign spectators as being not welcome.
Yeah, no, that's the one I'm expecting. I'm not angry with the USOC, the IOC, I think they should have done that early on. But again, it's that in England, do you have a thing that's called the ombudsman?
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Okay. In the U.S., they should, but they don't.
Yeah.
I bring it up when people ask me to find the dictionary meaning of it. You need to have someone to tell you when you're believing your own BS, as my dear father would have called it. And the IOC, as much as I love their pomposity, as much as I love the Olympics, they got to think outside themselves, and they got to think about the human race. Because if they damage the Olympic movement, Pierre de Coubertin will come out of his grave and hit them with his umbrella, and I would too. And for people who don't know who Pierre de Coubertin is, why are you following track and field? This is the man who founded the modern Olympic movement. And his Citius Altius Fortius, just a little bit of trivia, wasn't some great thing the Greek athletes said. It was what a Jesuit coach used at the University of Paris for his basketball cheer in 1890. So just a little bit of trivia, because Stuart, we try to educate, Yeah.
I know. I know. Yeah.
So what do you think about? Go ahead. I've been too much caffeine today.
Actually, this week, I applied for accreditation for Doha, and I got turned down because I hadn't actually planned to go, so it didn't matter. But I got turned down saying that the government of Qatar is not allowing any foreign journalists to attend.
Wow.
So you see, countries like Qatar are saying, "Well, sorry, we're just not allowing that." And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if the same thing happens in Japan. And I mean, I think it's difficult for the Japanese government to say we are going to allow the Olympics to happen, even if there are 80% of the people who are in the country who are not comfortable with it. And it's a strange situation. And someone said that last year's Olympics were cancelled when countries started pulling out, and perhaps if one big country says we've decided we're not going to send a team to the Olympics, I think that could really make it snowball.
No, I think so too, my friend. But we will follow up. This is Athletics Chat 53. Next week, Athletics Chat 54. Please be safe. I hope you get some golf. I hope you get a nice glass of wine with your lovely family, and you're reading a good book or something. We watched last night Gaslight, a movie from 1944 with Ingrid Bergman, Charles Boyer, and Joseph Cotton. Awesome. It was so cool. And I had never seen the movie, and I was just learning about that term. But it's watching Ingrid Bergman in a movie is kind of fun too. But there'll be some track meets this week. We've got Doha coming up on the 28th, which is one of my favorite meets. We've gone for many years, and we would normally that was the beginning of me and you and I harassing each other during the season. And so we'll have to find something else. I think that my approach right now is Portland Track Classic this weekend. Galen Rupp, Evan Jager are competing. There should be some other good performances. We're going to go back and sit in Wisconsin for 2 weeks, then come back out for the Olympic trials. And then after that, make some decisions. But it's we've got a lovely sport. Thanks to the officials, meet directors, and sponsors for staying involved in this crazy time. Diamond League and Continental Tour, World Athletics. You know what? As much as I can complain about you guys at times, this is good. It was nice to see a couple pressers. Jeff did a nice job, and I really enjoyed Shikari. But I'm always impressed with Dean Asher-Smith and our friend Laura Muir. But we just got. This is a sport. It's a very tenuous time. Everybody's got to be careful. And Stuart, stay on after I do the little closing. I got a quick question for you. But this is Larry Eater, Athletics Chat number 53. Next week will be 54. Run Blog Runs Socialing the Distance is the other show we do during the week. But if you like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you love us, subscribe on YouTube so you can see Stuart and I for 53 athletic chats. Stay safe. Hey, sports fans, Athletics Chat 53, epilogue, short and sweet. Sha'Carri Richardson went over to Gateshead Diamond League, the first meet of the season, competed in the 100 with a 3 meter per second headwind, rain, cold, all that fun stuff, and Dina Asher-Smith in the shape of her life and lost Dina Asher-Smith, a brilliant race, an exciting race. What Sha'Carri should be applauded for was answering all the questions, not one, not two, not three, but all the questions from the British media in her multiple pressers in Gateshead. In case you haven't been to a press conference in the UK, British media are some of the best educated on our sport. Wonderful, dear friends. We have spirited disagreements and spirited conversations, but my big beef is if someone has tested positive for drugs, if someone's around drugs, they're called the drug cheat. And sometimes it's much more complicated than that. Our dear friends across the pond sometimes live in a glamour world where there's the good guys and the bad guys. Unfortunately, that is true, but there are some people who we will never catch who cheat. Like that happens in all of life. However, I do believe in freedom of the press. And that means that even in the time with our previous president in the US, as much as he annoyed me and took my blood pressure up, I believe that he should be allowed to say what he said and it should be corrected. Now, press conversation, there were questions that were asked, continuous questions, asking the same question a different way, thinking she's going to break. You don't need a Nobel Prize in communications to understand that when a person hasn't answered something 1, 2, or 3 times, go on to the next question. You have a responsibility because you're trying to help the track fans, 85 million track fans in the UK, learn more about an athlete. And how are you doing that, calling their coach a drug cheat? I think it's just ludicrous. But on the other side, at a presser, if you're getting given handwritten questions because press can't be there, you need to represent them. And if 10 of the 20 questions are on drug cheats, you've got to ask a few of those. Do I think it's good for the sport? No. I think, quite frankly, track media around the world, we eat our young. And we're, as well as a good thing for the sport, sometimes we're a real pain in the butt for the sport. At a championship, why do you ask drug questions at a medal ceremony? Why not talk about the athletes who got there winning and stuff like that? There's enough times to ask about it. And I know because I've done it. I've written about it. I put my house and my professional career on the line because people were going to sue me. So I understand what it's like, and I defend freedom of speech to the end. So on one side, if your question isn't answered 2 or 3 times, go on to another question. That's 1. 2. But if you're responsible for questions, I think you need to at least ask a few of them. It may annoy some of the athletes. Unfortunately, that's what we have in a free society. This is Larry Eder, Run Blog Run, Athletic Chat number 53. This is the epilogue. Stay safe. If you like Run Blog Run, like us at Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. If you love us, subscribe on YouTube. We have 2,500 videos and audios since 2010. There's going to be something you like. If not, I'll do a recording of Inagata Davida for you. Okay? Larry Eder, stay safe.